Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Read and Reread. I am Angelia, and today I'm going to take a break from tags to do an episode of my very sporadic series, The Story of a Shelf, in which I pull a number out of this banana hat and that corresponds to one of the shelves. Now, since the last time I did this, it's been so long that I have redone the shelves and added a bookcase. Well, I think I did one since I added the bookcase, and some of the books aren't even in this room. They're in the next room, and I didn't really add those shelves into the numbering. But those are mostly art books and children's books, so I don't know if there'd be an interest in those shelves anyway, but I already digress. Most of the shelves are still in the hat unless I've already done a video about them. So I'm going to pull one out, and then we are going to find that shelf in the library and just have a little chat about the books on that particular shelf. And then you are invited in the comments to add in your own thoughts about those books and those authors and anything else you want to add. If we get a fiction section, the fiction is alphabetized by author, and if we get the nonfiction, it's kind of grouped sort of by subject kind of stuff. It's the Dewey system is not up and running in the nonfiction section. So let's just begin by pulling a number from the hat. As you can see, there are a bunch of folded numbers in the hat. And let's see what we get. What will the banana give us today? And it is number 23. Okay, I think that is going to be that shelf. It's not all nonfiction. It's like the end of fiction, and then it gets into some other things. So we're going to find out. I think that's where that's going to be. I'm not entirely sure. So I'm going to go count the shelves and figure it out, and then I will be back. Okay, I was way off the mark. So 23 is still in the middle of the fiction. And then I remembered that something I did was in my numbering, these little skinny shelves, I just made a plan that if I got one that landed on one of those, I would just pull the next number two and I do like those two shelves together because they're so skinny. So that means that I'm going to be doing that little shelf that has the little painting in the middle that we'll look at in a minute, and then the one right below it. That's going to be 23 and 24. So let's move closer. Okay, here it is, the fabled shelf number 23. And this is a little painting that Stephen made. Okay, if you get closer, you see it gets a little more sinister and creepy when you get closer. If you stay back here, the mouse looks pretty cute. Got some snazzy shoes. All of the characters in Stephen's paintings have wonderful attire. Let's take a look at the books. The first one is a book that I don't really know that I'm going to keep. So I did read The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Pinter. This was sort of a pandemic read, and I really liked the cover. I enjoyed the book. It had two time periods. It had a time period in the present and one in the past. And the story in the past was way more interesting than the one in the present. That is the book where I learned about the activity of mudlarking in the Thames River, which I find really fascinating. And I know there's a nonfiction book about that I want to read. So it was an enjoyable book, but not something I would reread. So I'm probably going to eventually donate that or give it away. And then we come to a wonderful story collection, The Secret Lives of Church Ladies. This is the one that I ordered thinking there was a picture of a bagel on the front, but it is a peach. And the peach is significant. This, if you watch Supposedly Fun, Greg's channel, you've heard about The Secret Lives of Church Ladies millions of times. And if you watch my channel, you've probably heard about it quite a few times as well. I think I read this book last year. I finally bought one. This is just a fantastic collection of stories. They're not exactly connected, but there are a few crossover characters that appear in more than one story. But it is by Deeshaw, Philyaw, and just stories about different Black American women, different ages, different situations. And there's humor, there's dark stories. There's just so much heart in these stories. So we can't linger too long on any one book. We must move along. Okay, here is an old one. This is a book that I read when I was in middle school. Alan Mendelsohn, The Boy from Mars by Daniel Pinkwater. I read a couple of really bizarre books by Daniel Pinkwater when I was a kid, and there's another one called Lizard Music that I don't have a copy of. Really weird and offbeat. The Hoboken Chicken Emergency is another one. In more recent years, he got kind of strange and he started trolling people who gave him bad reviews. He got kind of weird, and I don't know if he's still living, but it's a childhood memory. Then we have Elena Knows by Claudia Piniero. Oh, this is one of the saddest, most beautifully written books. And I've recently talked about my shame that I have an unread book by her, and now she has yet another book coming out, and I'm going to catch up really soon so I can justify my continuing purchase of her books. On the other side of the painting, we have the Complete Works Volume 1 of Harold Pinter. So I don't have the rest of the volumes. This is from my college days when I read a lot of plays. I took a lot of classes that were, drama as literature. And so I know I read The Room, The Birthday Party, The Dumbwaiter. I don't remember the details, but just the titles. And I've kept a lot of these books because I, every year, renew my plan to start reading plays again, and then I don't really do it, except I am reading Shakespeare right now. Okay, then we have the Sylvia Plath section, or the beginning of the Sylvia Plath section. The Bell Jar, which was smuggled to me in 9th or 10th grade by an English teacher who said, "We're not allowed to teach this in class, but I think you will like it." And she was right, and I then smuggled it around to all my other friends. This may be the very copy she gave me, because this is an old one. Well, it has 75 cents. But anyway, I need to reread that too. I need to put it on. I'm making a master reread list. I need to put that on there. I've got some of her journals, a collection of poems, and then if we go down to this next shelf, we have the rest of the Sylvia Plath section. Ariel. This looks like a pretty old volume. Let's see. I don't know who Alan Weissman is, but this used to be his. I don't know if this is the first edition or not. Dedicated to her children. Then we have the Colossus. Wait, that's the end of the the Sylvia Plath. But I need to research this volume a little more closely. I usually I hit that collected poems when I want to look up a certain poem that I want to read. All right. Then we have some throwbacks to being a college English major when I took a philosophy class with this professor. I had a couple of professors that I liked them so much I took any class they offered, and I ended up taking some offbeat classes. I wouldn't say basic philosophy classes offbeat, but Plato, more Plato, and more Plato. Published for the Classic Club. Ooh. With a nifty little picture. Copyright 1942, renewed in 1969. I guess that's what this edition is. And just hanging around if I suddenly need to read some Plato. Poems, Alexander Pope. I cannot say I have opened this book in any recent decades. Ship of Fools. I cannot tell you. I've read a lot of her short fiction, Catherine Ann Porter. I don't think I've ever read this novel, and it is kind of a chonker. And so it's one of those cases of never say never. But I can't really picture myself reading it, but I'm not going to get rid of it. I wish I had a collection of short fiction instead of that novel, but I've got what I got. This was a book, The Golden Spur by Don Powell, 1962, and I do not remember. This was way back before BookTube, but something I read, maybe another author recommended it, and so I bought it, and now I know I read it. It's one of those cases, if this was in Remember December, it would be remembers nothing about it. I bought it, I read it, I have it, I don't know. I just don't know. All right, we're almost finished. The Imperfectionists. This is one I'd like to reread. Tom Rachman. I know it's about a bunch of Americans that live in Rome. I mean, I don't even remember if they're Americans, but it's about an English language newspaper that's published in Rome, and it's linked stories that make up a novel. And I really loved it, and then I don't think I ever read anything else by this author, and I don't know why. And every time my eyes cast upon this book, I think, oh, I need to read that again. This is a book I bought because Ann Patchett recommended it, and it was during the pandemic, and she was on PBS NewsHour, and she came on and recommended some books that she had been reading, and she mentioned this, and then I was at Book People, my favorite independent bookstore, and it was in the clearance section, and it's this nice hardback copy. But have I read it? No, I have not. Let's see what it's about. For decades, Joseph Ziggy Johnson, the founder and dean of the Ziggy Johnson School of Theater, has been the pulse of Detroit's famous Black Bottom, a celebrated gossip columnist for the city's African-American newspaper, the Michigan Chronicle. He's also the MC of one of the hottest nightclubs where he has rubbed elbows with the legendary black artists of the era. I think it's like a bunch of vignettes, and I don't know why I haven't read it. Has anybody read this book? You know what? I don't think I've ever heard anyone else mention this except Ann Patchett. And here it still is. And it has escaped my unhaul a couple of times because I felt kind of guilty that I never read it. But then I look at it and it looks really appealing. So maybe I want to read it. And then here's one I bought for a reading event last year, but I ran out of time and I didn't read it. The Friendly Young Ladies, and it is set in 1937, and it's about a young girl who's feeling very stifled and trapped in her family's home, so she runs off to join her sister who had run off previously, and I think she discovers that her sister is a lesbian, or maybe she already knew it when she ran away. And they have a series of adventures and in their liberation, and Mary Renault is not an author that I have read, but I am familiar with her name, and it still sounds good, and I totally forgot about it until I came and looked at it right now on the shelf. Okay, so there you have it, folks. The story of a shelf, of two skinny shelves. And just for a teaser, here's what's up above it. Here's what's down below it. But that's not what we're going to talk about today. So there you have it. Let me know your thoughts on any of those books or authors. Have you read them? Do they sound interesting? Do you want to read them? Should I make more segments of this series that I seem to come up with once every several months? Let me know if you enjoy this. I hope you're having a great day, and I'll be back soon. Bye-bye.